So today we're going to be ranking all the main unnamed locations from Chapter 1. Now obviously there have been a lot, so we have just got some of the most popular ones in this tier list. And it should be good to look back on these because it has been quite a while since we last landed at a lot of these locations. So let's get straight into it with the containers. Now obviously a very popular unnamed location from Chapter 1. And for me it was definitely one of my favourites as well. Gonna get straight into it and put this one in A tier. Really like this location. Was kind of difficult to get to some of the chests, but other than that, really liked landing there. Now moving on, we have got the OG factories. Now I think everyone can agree this was probably one of the best unnamed locations. It did return in Season X, and I think this one might actually be my favourite. Has to go in the top tier for sure. Now moving on, we have got the motel. Now I did use to land here quite a lot back in Chapter 1, and it was a decent place to land. It was kind of on the edge of the map, so that was a bit difficult sometimes with the storm. But in terms of the loot, always had a decent amount of chests. It had the broken down building right next to it as well. I think overall, a solid location. Not sure if I'd say it's my favourite, especially compared to some of the others though. But I'll still probably put it in B tier. It's still a decent location, but not quite my favourite. Next up we have got the racetrack. I'm going to put this one straight into C tier. I think it was a decent location. Wasn't really that much loot, but it was, kind of different. We just had like the race areas. Would have been better if we had the vehicles in the game. Obviously back then we didn't really have any cars that you could like drive around and race around in. That would have been better. But it was still a decent location. But again, compared to the others, I definitely preferred landing a lot of the other locations compared to racetracks, for example, even though it was still decent. Now in terms of the prison, this one was probably one of my favourite locations. Right next to Moisty Mire, you could land at either of them and then go to the other place and just loot up again. You could get so much loot from the prison as well. I think the meteor kind of like destroyed the prison. I think it was in Season 4. But prison was definitely one of my favourite locations. But obviously it did get removed then in Season 5 when Paradise Palms got added. But I think this one has to go in S tier again. It's got to be at least top 2 in terms of my favourites. I think probably landed here the most actually out of any of the other locations on this list. But prison, definitely one of my favourites and has to go in the top tier without a doubt. Now moving on, we have got the Caravan Park. Again, very close to Lonely Lodge. Sometimes would land there and then rotate to the Caravan Park before heading to Retail Row maybe. And it's a good place to go, pick up a bit more loot, a few more materials, grab a few more chests. I think it was a decent place. I wouldn't really land there much. I would more just land at like Lonely Lodge or Retail and then rotate there to see if there's any action or any spare loot. So in terms of where I'll rank it, probably B tier. Again, not bad, but not quite my favourite. And moving on, we have got, again, one of my favourites, very nostalgic looking back on this. It is Salty Mountain. But in terms of where I'm going to rank it, it's probably going to be C tier. I think it was a very iconic location. But again, in terms of loot, it didn't really have that many. It probably had like 3 or 4 chests at the most. But I'd say the good thing about this location is that it was right next to Salty Springs and Dusty. So you could land at this mountain and then head right into Salty. I think that's what I used to do quite a lot. Just land at the mountain, grab a chest and then head straight into Salty. Because obviously every game you had at least like 10 people land in Salty Springs. It was a very popular location. Next up we have got the soccer stadium. Personally one of my favourites. I'm going to put this one straight into A tier. I think again in terms of the location of this one, it was right next to Tilted Towers. I think I used to land here and then just grab some loot and head to Tilted. Or I think I'd land Snobby Shores and then go through the soccer field and then go into Tilted. I think it was a really good location, had some good chests, and it's just a very unique location as well. Definitely one of my favourites. I'd probably say top 5. I really did like landing here a lot, and yeah, hopefully maybe one day they will bring it back, but who knows. Now moving on, we have got this location. As you can see on screen, I'm going to put it in A tier. I don't really know what we called this location. I remember Starry Suburbs did replace it. I think it was in Season X. I'd say it was a good location though. It had quite a lot of chests. In terms of loot, it probably had maybe the most loot out of any of the other locations on the tier list. You could get so many chests here, and again you could probably just loot up and then rotate to Pleasant Park. So if you did land here, then you'd remember it was quite a good location and definitely has to go in A tier, a really good one there. Moving on, we have got the other factories, and this one again has to go in S tier. I think it was one of the best, especially in terms of loot. I'd actually say this one probably has the most chests. It probably had like at least 10 to 12 chests, I'd say, maybe even more than that. But yeah, really good location. I think it was like 4 buildings it had, like 4 different factory sections. It wasn't really in the best location in terms of on the map because it was kind of on the edge and you didn't really get that much action. But if you wanted a quiet game, you could land here, get a lot of loot, and yeah, definitely has to go in top tier. And then last up, as you can see, we have got this chair location. Again, if you did play in Chapter 1, you probably remember this location with the big chair. And it had like a little gas station right next to it. But in terms of where I'll rank it, it was cool, like the chair was unique, but in terms of the location itself, probably C tier. Again, it was decent, but probably not one of my favourite ones. There we have it, those were all the locations. It was pretty good to look back on these, and make sure to comment down below, out of all the locations we went through, which one was your favourite. For me, I did put 3 in S tier, but if I had to choose one, I'd probably go prison actually. I think I really liked the prison, the location, the loot. Yeah, I think it was probably my favourite. But if you did enjoy the video, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe for more. There's a lot more videos on screen here. Make sure to click on another one to keep on watching, and I'll see you over there.